Nowadays, we live in a society that, slowly but surely, is becoming more and more desensitized with what the world today considers horror. Just like art, what scares us is a subjective matter, from simple phobias to mental distress, wondering what is awaiting in the dark. Fearing the unknown. Generally, some of these scary thoughts are picked up early from what we're exposed to in childhood. A situation that evoke an unpleasant sensation of fear, from life experiences to movies, books, and video games. The truth is, we want them or not, we're always exposed to outlets of horror. So much that is, we eventually lose the fear to some of them, and we turn them into enjoyable frenetic experiences. Still, the biggest and most powerful outlet of horror is still within us. Our mind is liable for most of our most terrifying nightmares. Even if we manage to conquer them, the fear will only evolve into something else. Something so simple, like finding shapes in the dark, or finding faces. The reality is that we can find horror even in the most mundane things. Born in July 1963 in Sakashita, Japanese horror manga artist and author Junji Ito has given the world a glimpse of the horror we deal daily with a more twisted and sinister turn. Mostly known for his greatest works like Uzumaki, Tommy, and Geo, among others, Junji Ito has created a reputation of being one of the most influential horror manga artists of all time. His art draws inspiration from other famous authors such as Kazuo Uematsu and cosmic horror novelist H.P. Lovecraft. Ito's stories explore slice of life situations and turns them into something horrifying. The art of his stories relies heavily on uncertainty, never knowing what will happen next and whether the protagonist will make it. For sure, we will not be expecting a happy ending. Having said that, today we will explore some of these stories that are popular among the public that still terrify us to this day. These are the 7 most disturbing stories of Junji Ito, according to me, Ollie. Number 7. To start off this list, we will begin backwards count, and it's fair to say spoilers will be given right off the bat. Also, to induce good lecture, I will not be giving explicit details, but I will say what the story is about. Having said that, the story that lands on this spot is the first Junji Ito I have ever read, and since that, has had an impact on me. Most of us have experienced that dreadful feeling of moving to a new place and having to accommodate to our new surroundings. The Window Next Door tells a story about a boy and his family moving into a new neighborhood. The parents seem excited to introduce themselves to the neighbors around. Everything seems to be okay until they notice the house next door is oddly quiet. We, as the readers, are not given enough information about the house next door, but this is key to know what the protagonist will experience in the upcoming turnings of the page. The boy is given a room on the 2nd floor, which is next to a window of the next door place. As soon as nighttime comes, the protagonist soon is waken up by a voice coming from the next door house. More specifically, the window. Is then when curiosity leads our protagonist to peek and face something utterly disturbing. Number 7. Number 6. Our next spot on this list is a story that touches on a unique phobia. The word automatonophobia is the fear of human-like figures such as mannequins, wax figures, statues, animatronics, and robots. The story, Headless Sculptures, tells a story about an average schoolgirl that shows interest in her art class. It's getting late, so she offers herself to clean up the classroom alongside her teacher. However, she's quickly reminded by another student that he is the one staying late, that she should not worry about it. The next day, the girl goes to check up on her friend as he was still in his apartment on a school day. Seeing that he was not able to open the door, our protagonist directs herself to school, just to find out there was the police investigating a murder that happened the night before. Her teacher was found murdered, but that was not the most horrific detail. His head was missing. The next day, she sees the last person that was with the art teacher. He was wearing a face mask and acting very strange. He quickly eases up her worries. Later, fueled by curiosity, some other students go together to the crime scene, the art classroom. The room is empty, covered in sheets. An eerie feeling fills up the space when they suddenly see a shadow peeking through the glass of the faculty door. The door unlocks and slowly starts sliding open. Our protagonist, still with her friend, is taken to the art classroom just to know the truth behind the murder. Number 6. Number 5. How many of us fear stalkers? Pretty much all of us. The thought of having someone seeing you, checking where you are at all moments, it is an unsettling feeling. Imagine having to deal with someone or something that is not human. Blackbird tells the story of a young man found in the woods. He was injured and lost track of time. The people who found him quickly took him to the hospital only to notice something strange. The man told one of the people in charge of him that it has been a while since he got lost. That intrigued the entire staff. He looked in good shape as if he was still getting nutrients to keep alive for days long. As night came, our protagonist, with a concerned look in his face, asked the man who saved him to stay with him all night. The man agreed to stay. It was very late. Small noises woke the rescuer. Gulping noises. As he wakes up, he noticed a strange black figure over the guy he rescued. The figure of a large woman. She turns and smiles at him, only for her to leave the room. Wanna know more? Read the story. Number 5. Number 4. A girl lives in a very old apartment building. Her room is on the first floor. The only issue she must worry so far aside from studying is that the neighbor upstairs blasts music that interrupts her studying session. Tired of the situation, she goes to check up on her neighbor to ask him to quiet down. He quickly responds that she's the only one complaining. To prove him wrong, she goes next door to ask people if the noise bothers them as well. She knocks, but no response. Suddenly, an elegant figure approaches the stairs. They run into each other, but not even a small talk happens. The next day, coming home, she runs into her upstairs neighbor, the lousy one, trembling in fear. He tells her that he is soon leaving, so that means his apartment would be vacant for her to move. She soon makes the arrangement with her landlady, so her new place will be upstairs. She runs again into the woman next door, knocking her groceries by accident while she opened the door. She quickly accepts her responsibility and tries to help her, but the woman could not be bothered. She just gets up and leaves. At this point, we as the readers, we start getting doubts whether being next door to that woman is a safe bet. Later that night, she finds a hole in her new apartment. She tries to stay calm, but her curiosity gets the best of her, leading her to look. She peeks through the hole, and what she sees shocks her. The girl controls her breathing to keep on looking until Number 4. Number 3. After an earthquake in Japan, a fault is discovered in Amigara Mountain. The protagonist of this story is a couple of hikers who met to see the fault who has captured the interest of the worldwide press. What was so curious about this fault is that human-shaped holes appear after the quake. Nobody knows how or why the holes were there, or even where they go. One of our protagonists reveals that she came because she was sure that one of the holes was her exact silhouette. Ever since she put sight on that silhouette, she felt like it was meant for her to enter. Another person overhears the conversation and explains to them that they also came to see the fault because they also found their exact silhouette and they needed to enter. The man does not hesitate and starts getting ready to enter his hole. From this point, the story of wonders turns into something disturbing. Later that night, the boy starts having nightmares about one of the people being trapped in their hole. This increases his concern about his partner. The next morning, they go together to see the fault again, only for her to encounter her hole. They quickly see another man climbing the wall to get into his hole. Her desires grow stronger, and that incites her partner to seal her silhouette with rocks. The night comes, and the boy starts having another nightmare regarding the fault that makes him wake up. He quickly realizes that his partner has gone missing. Number 3. Number 2. We're almost at the end of this stop. What has been a common thing among these stories on this list? It's simple. There is no reason why these characters encounter the respective horrific event. We also lack background on why this situation happened in the first place. From moving to a new house, an eventful day at school, hiking at mountains, you could say that it was just mere bad luck. So, what could be awaiting for us in the second spot on this list? Do you know who Mary Shelley is? She is the author of the most famous monster novel of all time, Frankenstein. What would it be another way to tell the story of the scientist Victor Frankenstein? First, we must know, by today's standards, the monster of Frankenstein is an icon of classic horror, but that doesn't mean the monster is something to be feared. There has been countless movies, shows, and cartoons telling the story of this monster, so much that it has become part of the pop culture. So, how would Junji Ito retell the story that has been told countless times? Junji Ito is always praised for the grotesque art on each frame. Each turn of the page leaving a shocking impression on the reader. Junji Ito takes the original story and makes it his own, respecting the essence of the original and adding his twisted visions. Frankenstein is not only seen as a cult horror classic, but also as a love story. In the previous spots on this list, I gave small previews on what the stories were about. It might not be everyone's favorite Junji Ito story, but this is my list, and I strongly encourage you to get the book and read it. It's pleasant to read. Number 2. Before we get to talk about the obvious first place, what sits on the first place on this list, what takes the crown, I want all of you to notice something. At the beginning of this video, I said most of these horrors could be considered as unfortunate events that could be seen or could happen in the most mundane tasks. Well, when I said events on a time lapse could signify an end, whether the characters live or die, we know that that would be the end of their story. For short stories, the short time we spend reading them, we feel the dread of the characters, Our empathy levels reach concern for the character's sake, and our morbid curiosity for what will happen to them. It's odd but satisfying to see what will be awaiting for them in the next page. In the hierarchy of horror, we have entities such as monsters, ghosts, or ghouls, on the level that humans can't reason a way of survival when it comes to fiction. Above this, we have, at the top of this horror hierarchy, natural disasters that gets out of control, and next to these disasters, we have some other entities that could be considered god level. Now imagine combining all entities and disasters into one story that, in comparison to the previous entries, wouldn't be considered to be just an anomaly. For the most popular story, Uzumaki tells the story of a small town of Kuratsu. There was something strange in the air, from the curling of the plants to finding odd small whirlwinds. Something was starting to make the people of Kuratsu acting a little bit different. Kairi Goshima, our protagonist, is quickly told by her boyfriend Suichi that his father has been acting up strange. Suichi's father has developed a strange interest in spirals. He would collect anything with a spiral like seashells and conch. One day, Suichi's father was found fixated on a small snail on a wall. His eyes were spinning around disoriented as he was facing the snail. Suichi, concerned, tells Kairi to escape the town together as soon as possible, but she wasn't quite sure. One day, when both of them were walking to Suichi's house, they arrived to see Suichi's dad being overly mad at his wife. Suichi's mom was overly concerned about the obsession Suichi's dad had with spirals, so much that she threw away his precious collection of spirals. Suichi's dad gave up and said that he didn't need them anymore, because he understood the spiral now. Few days later, Suichi's dad was found dead by his family. In the funeral, Suichi shares with Kairi the horrible way they found his father. At the end of the funeral, a massive cloud starts spinning above the town of Kuratsu, shaping up a bit like Suichi's dad, like a bad omen for the things to come next. From this point forward, things can only get worse, as the spiral starts appearing everywhere, making the characters lose their sanity. Number 1.